Hello, this is Roland. Welcome. Today I want to talk about the spiritual life versus the carnal or sensuous life. We are a soul in a body. We have a body that is useful for navigating around this beautiful creation that God has made. And with this body we can move, we can hear, we can see, we can touch. And with our brain we can figure things out to a certain extent. But our soul really belongs to the Creator, to the Creator of all realms. That's the abode for our soul, where it belongs with God, a heavenly abode. Now, while we're upon this earth, we do the best we can. And what can we do upon this earth? Well, we can appreciate the Creator. We can marvel at His creation. You remember when you were a little child and everything was filled with awe and wonder. Everything was a discovery. Well, it should continue that way. When you're an adult, it should be the same. Not emotional like a little child, so it'll be a little different. It'll be less emotional, and somehow it'll have a different quality to it, but it'll still be the same awe, wonder, joy. It'll be a more quiet joy, quiet awe, quiet wonder. Every day, everything should remind you. See, everything was made to testify to the Creator's greatness, His genius, like an artist. If you go to look at the paintings of an artist, see, the paintings testify, bear witness to, demonstrate the artist's creativity and the artist's skill. See, and you think, well, that's wonderful, how nice, how clever he is, what a good artist he is. Well, everything that God makes testifies to His and bears witness to and shows His creativity, His genius. And so everything that you see, from a leaf to a piece of dust floating through the air, to the sound of the wind in the trees, everything testifies to the Creator. And the more you know of His creation, the more you know of Him. He made it all. And so you can learn something about Him from seeing what He made. Well, He made human beings potentially to be His children. All the rest of the universe is basically dead. Okay? Dead as far as not being able to know the Creator. The fox, the deer, the antelope, the rose. See, none of them can know the Creator, but humans can. We know of the Creator through His creation, and we can also know Him. We are to be His children. But something has gone wrong with the human race. We become separate from Him. And we've fallen into the flesh to the point that some people hardly know of the Creator at all. Well, words can also be useful to remind us. Words about God and about Jesus and salvation. To the potential child of God. such words are wonderful to hear, because we know that it's possible. And then one day we discover for ourselves that these things really have a deep meaning. They're not just words. So the whole thing can be marvelous. So the human being walks by the light of two suns, the spiritual sun and the earthly sun. The human being is the jewel of creation. But when you look at people, you see that they've been degraded, don't you? The way they look, the way they act, their concerns, they've been degraded. And this is very, very, I was going to say sad. It's something to, you can have compassion for people. Okay? Our heavenly abode is to be with the Father. Well, so then, now you know what we can do upon this earth. One thing we can do is marvel at the Creator. And if you can begin on the path back to the Creator. See, the whole race fell away from God, and each of us individually were born first of the flesh as little children, and we run and jump and play and discover and grow. It's natural. That's our life. Okay? But even so, as little children, we still know things, don't we? Yes, we do. But then when we get to be adults, well, all right, then we get a job, we get married, we have children, all of that. And it's good. But then it's time for the soul to begin the journey back to the Creator. So then you can Christ said, unless you become as a little child, cannot enter into the kingdom of God. So, in a sense, you become like a little child in that you are able to step away from the corruption, okay, and rediscover innocence, and rediscover awe and wonder and joy, and life becomes an adventure again. Life becomes a discovery process again. Okay. Now, what happened was that a total brainwashing job has been done on people. Very sophisticated, very clever, brilliant even, where we've been convinced that we're nothing but animals, and then treated it like animals. Convinced that we're animals and treated like animals. So which came first, the chicken or the egg? If you're treated like an animal, if you're slapped around, kicked around, if when you speak the truth you're put down, if people constantly pressure you, goad you, you goad an animal maybe, or use spurs on a horse, or put a carrot in front of a donkey. See? Well, but humans are goaded to study more, be better, learn more, get higher grades, see, make more money, be always more goals, more performance. So we become herded and just like animals, pressured like animals, driven like animals. Okay? Well, and the food that we're given, it's not so good. See? So in so many ways, we are treated like animals. And then cruelty, immense cruelty, denying the truth. See, people deny the truth, pretend that nothing happened, if something happened. They say things that they don't mean. They say cruel things, gossip. They talk arrogantly about things they don't understand. just all of that. And so therefore, a person treated like an animal and degraded can then begin to believe they're an animal because that's the way they're treated and that's the way they feel. And the lower you sink away from God, the more sensuous you become, the more hungry you become. See, the more like an animal you become. See, especially once you lose the restraining force, yes, of conscience. The conscience is your closest link to God. It's your intuition of the inner light from God. And it's a very gentle restraining force, isn't it, conscience? You remember conscience when you were a little child, it restrained you. See, and if you told a lie, or if you were angry at your mommy, or said something mean, and you felt bad, didn't you? That was your conscience. So it restrained you. See, but as you became angrier and angrier, as they made you angrier and angrier, and you fell to the T's, see, if you had had perfect faith and perfect love, well, you would never have fallen. You wouldn't have become resentful. You wouldn't have lost touch with what you know in your heart. But you didn't have perfect love, and you didn't have perfect faith. And of course, like I said, you were just a child, so it happened to you, okay? But the more resentful you become, the more angry you become, see, then you lose faith. You begin to worry and doubt and fear and resent. And that all works against you because you fall from the higher ground. You lose touch with your calm center of being. And then you despair of see, then you don't know how to get back to what you lost. Plus they're relentless. See, relentless. Now it's the people don't want to admit that they're wrong for the most part. Some people are willing. Those people, especially those who are potentially children of God, because they love the truth so much, even though they have an ego too, and they become prideful and this and that. They love the truth so much they're willing to admit. And also they really don't want to hurt other people. And they see that what they're doing somehow is hurting other people, and they feel bad about it. See, well, there's hope and possible salvation for such people. But a lot of people, they don't want to admit they're wrong. See, so all of the people band together who don't want to admit they're wrong to squash the truth. See, so the more they can keep you beaten down, the more they can keep you sick, striving after goals, convinced you're just an animal evolved from apes, see, convinced that there's no God or doubting that there's God. See? And the more they can keep you rushing for some goal that they hold up, then, and the more they can make appeals to your ego, and the more they can keep you distracted with entertainment, with foolishness, with craziness, with weirdness. See? I was sitting at the clubhouse at the golf course. We go to hit a few balls and do a little putting, and it's good exercise, and I go for a walk. It's good exercise for me. And it's pleasant to be there. But then I was sitting in the clubhouse, and the TV was on, and they had the golf match, the Pebble Beach golf match there. But then the advertisements showing upcoming programs, see, in late night programs, there were advertisements for those, and it was so inane, so bizarre, so foolish, so silly, so degrading. See, the lower you see, the more you become guilty for not living up to your potential. See, we could have been. See, if you hadn't fallen for the pressure. See, they pressure you to be smart. They pressure you to study. They pressure you to get good grades. But if you hadn't fallen for the pressure, you would not have been degraded and downgraded. And then you would have been an Einstein, a Newton, a Madame Curie, a Beethoven, a Mozart, a Paul, a Winston Churchill. See? A David, an Isaiah, a Ruth, a Susan B. Anthony. You could have been, but instead you were degraded. And the more degraded you are, the more you don't want to see that you've been. You do not want to see. We don't want to see what we have become in light of what we could have been. It's too much for the ego, for the pride to bear. And so we welcome the inane entertainment and foolishness and silliness and the gambling and the video gaming and the drinks and alcohol and the marijuana and the crazy foolishness that's on television. See, the more bizarre it is, the more they degrade themselves for you. See, when they degrade themselves so much, some of these entertainers, see, they degrade you, but they degrade themselves also. But the more they degrade themselves, and you feel superior to them, you see how low they have sunk, and you feel superior, but you're also fascinated by it, see? So the fascination that holds your attention, see, takes you away from conscience, so you don't have to realize how low you've fallen. So it's pleasant, it's comforting. And not only that, but you can feel a little bit superior to them when you see how low they have sunk. You see? Or you watch the men running around in silly little shorts with a ball on their basketball. See, it's so silly. See? Or running around with a little football, little uniforms on with a football. It's pure silliness. Okay? When you see that, it's like they're putting on a show for you. And they're entertaining you, and so it makes you feel a little bit important. So you can temporarily not only be fixated and fascinated by their whatever they're doing, which is pleasant to the soul that doesn't want to admit how far it's fallen, and at the same time you can even feel a little bit superior to them, like they're putting on a show for you, making you feel like a king or a queen. So you see that. So that's the level that we fall into. Well, the journey back, see? So you're not going to find the answer out in the world. You're not going to find it there. Everything is designed to distract and to appeal to the ego and to confuse and, see, to take you away from realizing the truth. Because if you were to realize the truth and get better, then the light in you and the contrast would show others for what they are, and they could not bear to see that. Okay? So therefore, you have to look within. You have to refine what you know in your heart. What you once had as a little child, you have to refine that. And become less reactive to what's happening on the outside. And begin your journey back to God. The mystics, people like Brother Lawrence and Miguel Molinos, Teresa of Avila, St. John of the Cross, people like that, mystics, Francois Fenelon, St. Francis de Sales, Madame Guyon, people like that. They seem to understand how to refine what you once had as a little child and how to be in the world but not of the world. And they talk about the soul recollecting itself. When they say recollect, when a person recollects, it's like pulling back just a little bit. Pulling back just a little bit so you're objective, to slightly distant to all the things that are happening. See? And So there, it's there, but it doesn't impinge upon you. It's like there's a barrier, an invisible shield, like a force field around the Starship Enterprise. Remember in Star Trek? There's a force field and it protects you. So the bad can't get in. It's like sitting at one end of the room and there's a TV at the other end of the room, television over there, and it's blaring away with something. And you sit there and it's blaring away, but it's nothing. You're not really watching it. You're not interested in it. It's just blaring away. It's like that. It doesn't get in your head. See, not important. It's not even credible. Something like that. See, that you can refine yourself. Refine yourself. Get back in touch with the source from which you can once again begin to grow as the good Lord intended, and to begin to find your way back to Him.